is like using everything as a service, okay, through the internet, okay, and it would be available 24/7, and you just pay for what you use, if you're understanding. So this is something which could be considered as a general definition of cloud computing. Easy, okay, just you use any application on your phone through internet. You use YouTube, you are using cloud. You use Gmail, you are using cloud. You use Twitter, you use LinkedIn. So everything, okay, topic is simple if you're understanding. And the most important question from the examinations point of view is something which is known as characteristics of cloud computing. Now, in order to remember, there would be something through which you would be remembering it. Okay, it would be like read and write poem. Okay, there are 6 characteristics of cloud computing basically, which would be from these letters. Let us try to understand them first, and then we will be looking at the technique if you're understanding. So first point could be something known as pay per use, if you're understanding. Okay, pay per use could be the first point. Now, pay per use, it means what? That you would be paying only for what you use. In case of your own data center, if you have a computer at your home, basically you would be having great amount of hard disk capacity, great amount of RAM, etc. Suppose you have 5, 6, 8 GB of RAM basically, and 2000 GB of hard disk. So you do not utilize all the things at once, if you understand, but you have paid for them. So it is not that you are using less as compared to the resources which you have, but you have already paid for more. You have already thought that we may require it in the future. So you don't need to have, in case of cloud, you don't need to have dedicated resources waiting for you, if you understand. You just pay for what services you require at that particular moment, and as soon as you release the services, you do not have to pay anything. So it's just for a particular amount of usage. Like the electricity is on, you would be paying for it. If it is off, you don't usually pay for it, if you understand. So pay per use is something which is the first point. Second could be something known as on demand. On demand means what? That you could, if you want a particular service, you can ask for it immediately, if you're understanding. Like, okay, you don't need to tell them that please reserve this seat for me, or reserve this particular server for reserve this for me. I would be requiring it after 2 days. You don't need to do that. You don't need to have dedicated resources waiting for you, if you understand. No dedicated resources waiting. You want it, you get it immediately. You want, immediately we get it, you get it. That is the beauty of something known as cloud. You don't need to have, you don't need to tell them that after 2 days, after 4 days you need to store huge amount of data. You purchase it immediately, the storage space on Google Drive, and you get the space basically immediately, and you store your all the photos and backups and everything on Google Drive, if you're understanding, or on iCloud, or whichever place you find convenient. But you don't need to notify them before and make arrangements. Right now you pay, right now you get the service. Like, this is how it is, if you're understanding. So pay per use, you demand and you get it immediately. Pay per use is the first. Second is on demand. Third is something which is known as elasticity and scalability. Easy, okay, elasticity and scalability. Now what does this mean? Elasticity means what? That you can use the service and release them as soon as you want it. Okay, no sooner. It is all comparatively related to each other, only these points. Okay, you can expand or release or reduce, expand, reduce as per your requirement. Okay, and also you can get, okay, we can get. So it is just that it is given that you can expand and reduce as per your requirement, but scalability also means that we can get all the types of services, if you're understanding. It's not restricted that you would be getting only that software or that, if you're understanding. Everything could be provided. The vendor's responsibility it is to be scalable, so that it provides you everything, if you're understanding. Don't you think that the vendor should have each and everything so that the customer doesn't go away from him? Okay, do you have this? Yes, we have this. Do you have this? Okay, we have this. If you're understanding, so that should be a response basically. So elasticity and scalability over here, you just need to remember that you can expand your cloud, reduce the cloud as per your requirement. You again don't need to have dedicated resources waiting. Okay, if you have a great amount of tasks, for example, sudden task comes in a huge peak, you require great amount of processing, you get it immediately. And if at a particular time no work is there, you don't need to hold the resources waiting for you, if you're understanding. So pay per use, on demand, elasticity and scalability. Fourth one, we are going according to the poem. Okay, poem. M is something which is known as multi-tenancy. Multi-tenants. Okay, tenants, the people who stay on rent basically. So multiple tenants, if you understand. It is a multi-tenancy model. Okay, multiple tenants would be utilizing it simultaneously, if you're understanding. So if you have a data center as a cloud vendor, your data center would be used by multiple tenants, like in a PG when we stay basically. So we basically see people we share the cost. Likewise, this data center's cost would be shared to a great extent because it is considered to be multiple users would be sharing multiple users would be sharing the same infrastructure, if you're understanding. Multiple users, same infrastructure. So that is something which you need to remember in case of multi-tenant. So if you have multiple tenants, if you have a room and if there are 4 people staying, definitely the cost is going to be shared into 2,500 each if it is 10,000. So it is a win-win situation for both. For the owner also, he gets the amount which he wants, and for you also it is not very expensive. Likewise, that cloud computing data center is also shared with multiple people, and you pay a nominal amount and he gets the whole amount, if you're understanding. So multi-tenancy is the fourth one. Pay per use, on demand, elasticity, scalability, multi-tenancy. Fifth is something, and this is a bit technical, resiliency. RESILIENCY, if you understand. So resiliency is something which you could remember. Resiliency is like, isolating the failure. What does isolating the failure means? Isolating means kind of hiding. Now, as I told you, in case of technological world, if you would have heard of a word which is known as transparency. In case of technology, transparency is something which means not transparent. Actually, in case of computer, if you write computer transparent, it's like opaque only, it is like hidden. Okay, likewise, what this point tries to tell us, that if a failure happens, if you are a user, okay, you are using Gmail has 1,000 servers at back. Okay, now one server fails, the workload can be migrated to a different server. Okay, this is something which you have seen in case of grid as well. The server may be located in different parts of the world. It can be migrated to a different server. So workload movement is something, how could you isolate the failure? By workload movement. It means what? If a server fails, you can move the workload to another server who can take over that server, and user shouldn't know anything about it, if you're understanding. Because this may be the normal functioning. This would be like a day-to-day part of a server getting used or getting failed or going for maintenance. Still you want to continue the work, you shift the workload. That is very normal thing for us, but it may not be very normal for the user. He may think the failure as a failure of the organization, and he may think that his data may be a danger or something like that. Like I told you, that if a person is like suffering from disease and there are 2 people, okay, if one of them comes to know that yes, he is suffering, he would be under more problem. Even if he is not under severe condition, he has come to know, and that is a problem for him, if you're understanding. And if a person is suffering from like 5 months and is not aware, he would be still out there enjoying his life happily. So that is a situation where coming to know a particular thing may be a danger situation for that particular user, but not for the organization, because it is very normal for the organization. So isolating the failure from the user is something which is known as resiliency. Okay, and it could be done with the help of something known as workload movement, if you are paying attention. So workload movement is like transferring the load. Okay, you are not able, like you go to a shop and you ask for a particular thing, that thing is not there. Okay, they would be like, okay, why don't you, they would be on a call and they would be like, okay, bring it from our go down, or bring it from that particular place, or it is not known to the user, but they make the arrangements. in whichever way they make it, but they make the arrangements. User shouldn't come to know anything, but user gets it what he wants at the same price. So why should user be worried as well, and why should user know as well, if you're understanding? So that is something which is like resiliency. Okay, resiliency. And last point is something which is known as workload movement. Again, okay, it is like moving the workload, like we saw in case of why do we move the workload, as in why do we have the servers separated in different parts of the world? This could be in India, this could be in China, this could be in Nepal, this could be in Bangladesh, if you're understanding. So why this thing is there? Basically the server, one thing could be resiliency, if you're understanding, but the other things are, there could be three things basically. One which is known as cost consideration. Okay, just try to listen. Second could be something known as efficiency, and third could be something known as regulatory requirements. You need to remember the internal content. Why do we have workload, or why do we have servers distributed across different parts of the world? First thing could be that cost. The server's price may be low in a particular country. The power's price, electricity price may be low at some other country. The land's price may be low at some other country, and in order to take the advantage. If you understand, logical, sensible point. Second, efficiency. It means what? That it is related to network bandwidth. Some country may not have internet at a very high speed. Some country may be relying on 4G. Some country have already gone to 5G, if you're understanding. So these countries, to take the advantage of that efficiency, we may go for that country for that particular server, because it requires great amount of bandwidth, or great amount of, it requires immediateness for the work to be performed. So one could be cost, second could be efficiency, last is something which is known as regulatory requirements. Now regulatory requirements is like, there may be restrictions. Some countries may not allow some kind of data to be seen, if you're understanding. So you would be storing at some other servers. Some country may not allow some kind of data to be stored in their country, if you're understanding. So looking at that laws, looking at the regulations, you may decide that, okay, this country do not have such kind of laws. Why don't we go over there? Like we save the money in Swiss bank, basically, where there are no regulations, okay, tax haven countries, basically. So likewise, in case of servers as well, there may be some regulatory restrictions which you have in a particular country. So why don't we go on to those countries which are like server haven countries for that particular server, if you're understanding. So why don't we store it in that particular country only, so that we don't have to face any regulatory actions for that kind of data, if you're understanding. So it is like read and write poem is the characteristics of cloud computing. If you are paying attention, cloud computing is like service. You use as a service, if you understand. Service through the internet, if you understand. Through the internet, okay, you don't have, you just pay for what you use, and it is like, available at a very nominal cost, because basically it has millions of users working on it simultaneously. Okay, so definitely the cost is going to be shared. Like if you think of generating your own electricity for your home, it may cost you like lakhs of rupees, but you just pay a few thousand rupees for 2 months. That is something which happens. So why is it so low as compared to, I'm not talking about low as compared to other people. Why is it so low if you compare it to generating your own electricity? Because it is a multi-tenant model again. Multiple customers using the same infrastructure and available 24/7, that is cloud computing, available from anywhere, if you're understanding. Okay, requires internet, definitely no internet, no cloud computing. So and you would be paying just for what you're using. So this is like the basic definition. Now cloud computing has various topics inside it, like we saw characteristics. Okay, we have something known as characteristics. So we have something known as advantages, we have something known as disadvantages. Okay, cloud computing has characteristics, advantages, disadvantages. Then we have types of cloud or cloud computing environments, which has like 4 parts: public, private, hybrid, community, and then it has different types of services, basically. So what